Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we have another budget update. So we are going to have a look at what happened in the month of March when it came to our spending, and then we're also going to be setting the budget for the month of April too. So if you're new to my channel, this is something that I do every single month basically, and yeah, I'm excited to see how we ended up doing with our budget. So let's first start off with the month of March. Now if you are interested in the template that I'm using, this is something that you can also access as well. So it actually comes with a net worth statement, a sinking funds calculator, and then you have the choice between either using a monthly budget template or a weekly budget template depending on how you get paid. So I'll make sure that's linked in the description below for you. But if we look at our own monthly budget for the month of March, when our total income came in, we of course paid our savings and investments, our essential bills, and also our sinking funds. So usually in videos I tend to skip over that part because I go over them more in depth in the previous videos. So if you do want to watch last month's budget update, I'll link that in the description below for you as well. But let's focus on the spending because that's usually the things that we will track, and I think that's probably what you're interested in too. So when it comes to the month of March, our spending was slightly different this month, mainly because we were budgeting for 5 weeks instead of 4 weeks. Usually we tend to budget every 4 weeks unless there are 5 weeks in the month, and then it makes sense to budget for 5 weeks. So this spending is much more than our usual spending, but let's have a look and see how we ended up doing anyway. So first of all, let's start off with transport. Now we originally had a budget for £150 for transport. Usually we tend to budget around £120, but of course we had 5 weeks that we wanted to budget for. However, with this month, I didn't realize that my husband was taking a week's holiday, which meant that he wouldn't have to drive to work, and usually most of the petrol goes towards him driving to work. So rather than £150, we only ended up spending £112. Now had I known that my husband was going to be off for an entire week, I definitely would not have set £150 for this budget. But sometimes Yinka will tell me these things after I have set the budget. So even though we only ended up spending £112, as many of you will know, we will then usually spend a bit more money in other areas, and that's exactly what we did. Now if we have a look at groceries, originally we did have a budget of £218. Again, that's over the 5 weeks, and so we really wanted to spend between £43 to £44 a week. But when it came to groceries, we actually did go over. So instead we ended up spending about £233, which means that we were spending between £46 to £47 a week on average. So slightly more, and groceries is one of the areas that I really tried to look at just to see, you know, do we need to increase our budget for groceries or is it okay? And you'll see in next month's budget that we have actually slightly increased it, because last month, again, we didn't really change how we were eating. It was kind of the same. So I do feel like food prices did increase again, so that will be reflected on our April budget. But as you can see here, for groceries for the month of March, it was £233. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus I'm sure you know it's free. Now let's move over to toiletries. So with this, we originally had a budget of £50, but we ended up spending slightly less, which was great, and we only ended up spending £36 instead. So again, it meant that we had some extra money to now use for other areas. Then moving over to our own personal spending. So usually we'll budget for around £100 for the month, so for 4 weeks, but this month was 5 weeks as I've mentioned before, so instead we had a budget of £125. I mean, most of you will already know I tend to spend all of my money every single month without fail, or I may put some money into sinking funds like Christmas presents or birthday presents, but the majority of the time I will spend it, and usually Yinka will not spend his and he'll save his spending money. So I will never know how much money he has in his spending pot, but for me it usually goes down to zero by the end of the month. Then next up, let's talk about personal care. So we originally had a budget of £60 for personal care, and this month we did end up spending £60, so that was all good. And then if we now move over to date night, so with date night we originally had a budget of £70, and this month we ended up spending less money, which is a first I would say, because usually we'll go over in this category, but with eating out we only ended up spending £57. Then we move over to our gym membership. So that's a direct debit, and it's £21.99 for my gym membership because we pay yearly for my husband's. And then we also have Disney Plus, which is another direct debit, so that's £7.99. And then with miscellaneous, we originally set a budget for £40. However, we ended up spending, again, slightly less this month, and we only ended up spending £30 instead. So just £10 under budget for that. And then after that, we had my husband's rugby game. So that was £60 that he had to pay for. And then the rest of the money we had put into our pennies jar, which is just a small pot of money that we have in our account. So if we do have any loose change, we will add it onto that pennies jar. So in total, as you can see, we ended up spending much less. We spent around £872.65, but that was £60 under budget. So what we've done is carry that over to next month's budget, so you'll see that in the April budget. But I think this was mainly because my husband had a week off and didn't actually tell me, so I didn't budget accordingly. So I think had he actually told me, I probably would have distributed the money differently, but you know, that means we have £60 more to spend next month, so I'm happy about that. Okay, so let's move over to the month of April and see what is happening there. So as I mentioned, we were under budget for March of about £60, so I've added that onto our budget. And then when it came to our total income, as mentioned, I do tend to keep our salaries private, so we've got my salary coming in and also my husband's salary coming in. I will keep all my business money in the business account and use that to just invest in other things instead. So in terms of our total income, that is what we are using for the month of April. Now let's move over to our savings and investments. So as you can see, this month we are saving about £1,065, and that's going to a house deposit. And then we are also investing £50 each. So usually we would try to invest much more, but because we're trying to focus on the house, particularly this year, we're having to put more of our money into the house fund rather than investments. Then hopefully once we get the house, we can then switch that over back to investing. So at the moment, when it comes to our total savings and investments, that is about £1,165 this month. Then moving on to our essential bills. Now this is usually the same, but during the month of April and going forwards, there have just been areas where, you know, things have increased, like council tax. Our rent is going to increase next month as well. So our essential bills has actually changed over the month. So with rent, we are still paying £1,100 until next month. That is going to change. But when it comes to water, that has slightly increased. So now we're paying £52.75. I think we were paying like £47 a month before. So, you know, inflation and whatnot. Then we've got electricity and gas. So now that we don't have the government's help anymore, we are having to pay, you know, what the government was paying, but also our bills have slightly increased. So I think before the government was paying, we were paying around £106 a month, but now we're going to be paying £117.96 for electricity and gas. And then council tax has also increased. So I think before we were paying around, I think it was £129 if I remember, but now we're paying a bit more. So we are paying £136.14 for council tax. And then broadband, that's currently £31, but our contract is going to be ending soon. So this will probably change, I think, over the next couple of months, and we may end up paying more because broadband prices have also increased. But at the moment, luckily, we're only paying £31, but that will, you know, soon change. And then iCloud is £158. Our SIM contracts have still remained the same. So my husband's SIM contract is £12 a month and mine is £10 a month. And if you're ever interested, we actually use Voxy. So if you are in the UK and you're looking for a SIM only deal, I really like Voxy because you get endless social media data. So that's that. And then we also have our tithes, charity and giving. So this is something that we still continue to do, you know, no matter what is happening in the economy, we will always give a portion of our income into giving, because it's just a reminder that it's not our money at the end of the day, it's God's money. So for us, giving is treated as an essential bill. Now let's move over to sinking funds. And if you're not sure what sinking funds are, these are basically just expenses that you want to save up for over time rather than just paying them out of your paycheck. So as an example, we have £50 going towards car maintenance. So that is literally a pot for things like car insurance, MOT, road coverage. Rather than just paying it all at once, we'll set a small amount each month and set it aside, and then once we're ready to pay for it, that's when we'll pay for it. So that's car maintenance. We also have a sinking fund for the dentist. So usually we would set aside £10 a month, But we've realized that because we also do a deep clean each year as well, that is also slightly more. So we have increased our sinking funds to £20 a month for that instead. Then we've also got £10 going towards my husband's rugby registration, another £10 going towards a pot for clothes. So if we ever want to buy clothes, we have a pot sitting there with money. Another £10 going towards a presents fund as well. Another £10 going towards a skincare fund. And then we've got another £40 going towards a wedding pot. And I think I've mentioned this before, but basically because my husband is a groomsman for 2 weddings, we want to start setting aside money just to make sure that we have a pot in case he needs to buy things like a suit or, you know, anything else when it comes to weddings. So when it comes to our sinking funds, the total comes to £150. Now let's have a quick look at our spending, and this month we are only budgeting for 4 weeks, which is great. So in terms of our transport, we have actually set a budget for £100. Now, usually we will set a budget for £120, but as I mentioned, because my husband was off for a week, we still had a bit of petrol left. And so we're hoping £100 will also be enough, considering, you know, there's a couple of bank holidays with Easter coming up and all of that good stuff. So hopefully £100 should be okay. Then when it comes to toiletries, we have slightly increased that. So I think usually we'll set a budget every 4 weeks for around £175. But, you know, since it looks like food prices have increased again, and groceries is one of those areas where I just don't really like to cut back on, because I absolutely love good homemade food, and I know my husband does as well. So if grocery prices do increase, we will also increase our budget. So with that, we have budgeted £185, which means we're hopefully going to be spending, you know, around £46 to £47 a week. So we'll see how that goes for next month, but £185 is what we currently have budgeted for. Then when it comes to toiletries, we have budgeted £40 for that, so that remains the same. Our spending is going to be £100, but during the summer we will probably increase that slightly because we tend to leave the house a bit more often during the summer. Then personal care, we have a budget of £60 for that. Date night, we have a budget for £70 for the month of April. And then we've also, of course, got our gym membership for £21.99. Disney Plus is £7.99. And then miscellaneous, we have also set a budget for £30 this month. And then my husband doesn't have any rugby games this month. However, he does have a rugby social that we're both going to be going to. So that is an additional £70. So that is also in the budget. And then we had 69 pence left over just in terms of change after the budget. So we've also added that to our pennies jar. So we are hoping to spend around £785 for the month of April. Now, if you are someone who constantly tries to budget, but for some reason you never stick to it and you have no idea what's going on, you're not able to save as much as you would like, or you may not even have money to start investing because you keep going over budget and you maybe need some help with that, then make sure you do check out my one-on-one coaching, because what I can do is not only help you to create a budget that honestly works for you, but actually have a look and see where you might be going wrong and where the leaks are, so that you can be able to fix that and then be able to now start actually saving much more money, have more money to invest, but also at the same time still be able to spend your money once you have a clean system and a clean budget to work with. So if you are interested, make sure you do book a free call to find out more about working with me. So of course, I'll make sure it's linked up here for you and in the description below. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, how did your budget go for March? Did you overspend? Did you underspend? Let me know. I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week.